2, 1. Booster ignition and...
نسألك يا من هو الله الذي.
This man changed the world. Ayatollah Khomeini, born 24th September 1902, dead at 86. Oppressive fundamentalist or religious idol. The man behind the revolution of Islamic fundamentalism in Iran, a nation to be feared in the eyes of the West. This is the story of Ayatollah Khomeini's rise from being a meticulous student of Islam to one of the 20th century's most ruthless yet beloved leaders. Fundamentalism becomes appealing to Muslim societies after intense periods of modernization as experienced with the Shah. Western officials encounter the East and thus bring secularism and rapid change. Now, fundamentalism is most attractive to Muslims as it is a medium for them to reject this Western influence. This anti-Western ideology is a foundation for Khomeini's preaching.
تمام این بحران‌ها را امریکا ایجاد می‌کند.
On the other hand, the Shah promoted this alliance with the United States superpower. Thus, one can see this tension arising necessary for a revolution. Throughout Khomeini's time in power, Iran's economy shrunk by 40%, largely due to the Ayatollah's mismanagement. Furthermore, Iran's reliance on oil prices had plummeted in the mid-1980s, and his costly engagement with an 8-year-long war with Iraq also proved to be seriously detrimental. But Khomeini was successful in his brutal implementation of Islamic Sharia law, which saw a rapid increase in public lashings, executions, and stoning. Furthermore, the Ayatollah put a stop to Western influences, particularly with his heavily enforced laws on concealed clothing and the segregation of men and women in public. By the late 1970s, many inside and outside Iran were desperate for change. In 1978, several students were killed in a demonstration against the Shah in the city of Qom, but their funerals only served to fuel the opposition. Khomeini had been in exile, but his message had been smuggled into Iran through mixtapes. He became seen as the savior figure from the Shah's rule. On January 19, 1979, the Shah fled the country and Khomeini returned as a hero. How could have this occurred? The Shah was seen as a corrupt and ignorant leader. He disregarded Islamic tradition, changing the Islamic calendar to an imperial calendar, further enraging the Shia Muslims community. The Shah underestimated the strength of the religious opposition. Khomeini emerged as the leader of this opposition due to his charisma and self-confidence, despite the fact that he'd been banished by the Shah, and he presented Islamic ideology as liberal and appealing, winning over the Iranian middle class. The primary objective of the Shah in the 1970s was to westernize Iran, and this clashed with Iran's Shia Muslim identity, who strongly opposed Western influences. What is your stereotypical Muslim? The Western view has been distorted by degrading media and historical misinformation. Or has it? Did Khomeini accurately represent all Islamic people in the world? Islamic fundamentalism has had a significant impact in the international sphere, particularly in Western countries and the Middle East. Policies of the American government helped create an image of the Shah as America's puppet with their high-profile identity. This served as a catalyst for an opposition to the Shah, because Khomeini took advantage of this alleged puppetry and used this to instill fear into the nation. An era of close alliance between Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi's regime and the American government was followed by a dramatic reversal and hostility between the two countries after the 1979 Iranian Revolution. Opinions differ over what is called the decades of poor relations. Explanations offered include everything from the natural and unavoidable conflict between the Islamic Revolution on one hand and America's arrogance and desire for global dictatorship and hegemony on the other, to the regime's need for an external boogeyman to furnish a pretext for domestic repression against pro-Dematic forces and bind the regime to its small but loyal and heavy-armed constituency. Furthermore, in terms of America once again, the Iranian oil crisis occurred in the United States due to decreased oil output in the wake of the Iranian Revolution. Despite the fact that global oil supply decreased by only about 4%, widespread panic resulted, and this drove the prices far higher than they deserved to be. After this shift in Islamic veils under Khomeini, there was worldwide fear and hatred of Islamic fundamentalism. Opinions started to form within Western countries about the nature of Islamic fundamentalism, but further, neighboring countries were affected, particularly places like Lebanon, who abandoned their Islamic State because they were stressing about their national defense.
ما بادی جنگ نبودیم، ما بعد از اینکه به اون حمله کردن دفاع کردیم.
This forever changed the relationship between America and Iran, as a revolution caused a divide between the political frameworks.